there's a line you must not cross. If you do, then you're suddenly in a mirror world where left becomes right and right becomes left. The audience loses their bearings and you lose the audience. This is the 180-degree rule. When you film multiple subjects, the 180-degree rule dictates that you must keep your camera on one side of an imaginary axis drawn between your subjects. You can move as you please as long as you don't cross the line. If you do, you risk disorienting the viewer and confusing them. Usually, that's a mistake. But in films and anime, like There's No Freaking Way I'll Be Your Lover Unless, breaking the rule is actually the best thing you can do. If you've seen other videos on this channel, you'll realize that yes, I'm making another video about a yuri show with unremarkable production. I don't know man, you can either be a good anime or a gay anime. There's No Freaking Way I'll Be Your Lover Unless, or watanare for short, centers around the introverted Renako Amori, who has managed to fake it till you make it into the most popular friend group in her grade. Despite her constant battles with imposter syndrome, she catches the eye of her entire friend group, and each arc centers around her essentially dating or fake dating each of the girls. Being the loser that she is, Renako is easily persuaded into situationships or compelled to help no matter how ridiculous the scenario. Despite being one of the greatest pushovers in anime, at the climax of each arc, Renako ultimately finds the courage to catalyze positive change in her friends. It's always a joy to see the normally self-deprecating Renako turn things around, making a full 180 when the moment demands it. And if words aren't enough for the audience to pick this up, the camera is also here to back them up. In some of the show's most important moments, Watanare breaks the 180-degree rule. The show willingly risks breaking your immersion to emphasize the shifts in conversation. But surprisingly, it actually draws you in further. In the same way Renako's words are finally able to pierce through the defenses of her friends, the camera angle change breaks through the monotony of the normal composition to ping your brain that there's something different about this shot. In episode 4, Renako, on the left, confronts Mai Ozuka, on the right, by the swimming pool of a fancy hotel. Mai, feeling guilty over assaulting Renako in the previous episode, has decided to attempt to move on from her situationship with Renako. Despite Renako's willingness to forgive Mai, the latter refuses to budge on her reckless endeavor. She believes that not only must she be punished in some form, but also that she's lost any right to continue pursuing Renako. This is the dynamic we've grown accustomed to seeing as an audience. Mai dominates the conversation, and the former NEET has no way in. This is also best demonstrated by their heights, with Renako kneeling down for most of this talk. Until Mai says that she doesn't even want to be friends anymore. Renako decides that Mai has overstepped, and in turn, the camera decides to overstep. The composition flips 180 degrees, and now Renako commands the right side of the frame. Renako refuses to let their relationship end. She takes responsibility for poorly communicating her own feelings and reiterates her commitment to Mai made earlier in the season. Whether Mai is the perfect goddess of their class or the selfish lover who can't take no for an answer, Renako promises to accept Mai for her pros and cons. And Renako punctuates this declaration with the brave kiss. It's a huge reversal in roles, and the change in character positions physically manifests how the tables have turned. And it's not just the camera angle. At the same time, the overhead lighting creating uniform high-key lighting goes out, and the characters are backlit by the pool lights. Renako stands, physically rising above Mai to seize control of the conversation. Everything in the composition comes together to depict how the conversation has shifted in dynamic. Although so much has changed from the starting frame to the end, the viewer ends up even more absorbed in the story instead of thrown off of it. It happens again during the penultimate climax of the sequel entry covering Kaho Koyanagi's time with Renako. Kaho, like Mai, has been leading Renako by the nose, and Renako, as always, has been powerless to stop her for the most part. But right before the duo are about to perform on stage for a cosplay contest, Kaho loses her confidence. All her extroversion fades into insecurity, and Renako tries to desperately encourage Kaho to no avail. But eventually, Renako's sympathy transforms into anger as Kaho continually puts herself down. Reneko headbutts Kaho in frustration, physically moves into the camera, and kabedons Kaho. The imaginary axis has moved, and now the duo have flipped positions as Reneko finds the words to reignite Kaho's conviction. The blocking clearly indicates, again, the change in the conversation hierarchy. Kaho cedes her command of the interaction to Reneko, and the camera enforces that shift. One more really great instance of rule breaking comes in how the show highlights moments of honesty. While Reneko is always screaming inside about how much of a fake extrovert she pretends to be, all of the cast wear some form of mask to hide their true selves. But when those really vulnerable and candid lines are spoken out loud, the show toes that imaginary axis so that the viewer knows that those words were spoken from the heart. In episode 11, Sena, Ajisai, and Reneko sit together on a bench at the train station. While Reneko openly expresses her appreciation and admiration, Sena is still hesitant to express her newly discovered affection. But when she spots a passing by train, Sena takes the chance to be honest about her feelings. The train passes by, and we rotate 180 degrees behind Sena and Reneko. Sena's words are drowned out by the roar of the train, but the viewer easily intuits that they were likely a confession. When Reneko asks for clarification, Sena merely replies, "It was stupid, that's all." The mask has returned, but the viewer knows that in those moments, Sena was speaking candidly thanks to the change in camera angle. In episode 12, Mai encourages Sena to confess her feelings by faking her own confidence. Mai truly wishes for her friends to be happy, even if she is afraid that Reneko would accept Sena's confession while hers has gone unresolved. So, she pretends not to be worried, knowing Sena's tendency to prioritize others over herself. But for one brief moment, Mai talks about how people can change, and how she would like Sena to take that leap of faith. For one shot in this scene, Watanare breaks the 180-degree rule. This sincerity is not how Mai normally talks to others, and the difference in blocking is to ensure the viewer makes that realization. These two moments showcase that just because you cross the imaginary axis doesn't mean that you can't go back. A brief foray into the other side is enough to get the message across. You can't just put your camera anywhere and expect the viewer to follow, but the 180-degree rule is a recommendation more than a law. It's a fantastic and economical means to describe the ebb and flow of conversations. Watanare is all about managing the complex web of relationships between its cast. As these characters butt heads against one another and unearth their conflicting feelings, the direction can be paramount in how those entanglements come across to the viewer. And through crossing over that imaginary axis, the audience becomes well aware of just how much Reneko and her friends have grown.